Some more good news this week. Louisiana has become the first US state to reject the WHO-WEF power grab. The Louisiana State Senate has passed a Senate bill with a unanimous vote. This bill is a bold declaration of state sovereignty, setting the stage for a legal barricade against the overreach of globalist organizations, the United Nations, UN, the World Health Organization, WHO, and the World Economic Forum, WEF. Senate Bill 133, co-authored by Republican State Senators Valerie Hodges and Thomas A. Presley, as well as State Rep. Kathy Edmondson, aims to ensure that these international bodies have no jurisdiction or authority within the state's boundaries. The bill states, the WHO, UN, and the WEF shall have no jurisdiction or power within the state of Louisiana. No rule, regulation, fee, tax, policy, or mandate of any kind of the World Health Organization, UN, and the WEF shall be enforced or implemented by the state of Louisiana or any agency, department, board, commission, political subdivision, governmental entity of the state, parish, municipality, or any other political entity. The proposed legislation is a response to what some state legislators view as overreach by these organizations into American sovereignty and personal freedoms. Senator Hodges, representing District 13, spoke to Blaze News about the bill, stating, "We have watched a horror story unfold in front of us, as time has shown that the recommendations and coercive regulations from outside organizations such as the WHO have harmed hundreds of thousands of Americans." The senator cited concerns about vaccine safety and the influence of international organizations on domestic policy as key drivers for the legislation. The bill, which still needs to pass in the Republican-controlled Louisiana House, has been crafted to block the implementation or enforcement of any rules, regulations, taxes, policies, or mandates from the UN, WHO, and WEF. The Gateway Pundit previously reported that the WHO proposed a global pandemic treaty, which includes a provision for mandatory universal digital passport and ID system. We've also spoken in length about this on this broadcast. It's not just the treaty as well that we need to be concerned about. It's the international health regulations, which were initiated by Biden, the amendments to those regulations, in which the WHO initially proposed that they would erase human rights, dignity, and fundamental freedoms from any of their future pandemic response considerations. Now, that is extremely alarming language, and of course, no one should want any association with this organization following those statements, even though they were later retracted. But the initial intent was to never consider human rights, dignity, and fundamental freedoms again. So Louisiana is doing a fantastic job here. The US government is leading all nations into a global beast system that would require compliance with digital health tyranny enforced by the UN's WHO. As reported by Leo Hohmann, the Biden regime was pushing the amendments. This is what I just mentioned before. Even a public health emergency of regional concern would have triggered the WHO's authority to step in and enforce rules on things like mask wearing, social distancing, lockdowns, even vaccines, of which Big Pharma always has a new one at the ready, could be mandated by the UN agency headed by the corrupt Ethiopian communist Dr. Tedros. As Joe Hoft writes for the Gateway Pundit, the amended agreement would prevent Americans from doing anything that the UN world government apparatus didn't want to be done, and would in essence take away all rights of Americans in an emergency like COVID. It's also worth noting there that the UN has their political declaration as well, which even though 11 countries voted against, last year in September, the UN said, we're going to pass it anyway. And it essentially gives all authority to Antonio Guterres to become the dictator of the world in the event of a black swan event, an event in outer space, a climate emergency, pandemics, all sorts of things. So the fact that Louisiana has included a provision to have nothing to do with the United Nations is very important, because it does extend past what the WHO is doing with the IHR and the treaty. And they're calling it an accord instead of a treaty in an effort to bypass US Senate approval. This is the same in every country. Former Minnesota U.S. Representative and current head of the School of Government at Regent University, Michelle Bachmann, is concerned about the globalists whose arrogance leads them to deny God-given individual rights. In an interview with Joe Hoft last year, Bachmann said, "People sense that there is something seriously, drastically wrong, and that something is that you and I, and people across the world, are losing their freedom and their authority to make decisions. What we are seeing is that our choices are being taken away from us. As a matter of fact, we are being punished for choices. We are being censored for choices. We may not have the freedoms in the very near future that we enjoyed even 5 years ago and 10 years ago. We're seeing that not only in the US, but globally. Today, there is a threat of global domination. It seems to come from global institutions, but also from people who have more wealth than people who have ever seen before in the history of man. They're planning another pandemic right around the corner. Of course, the pandemic is just a pretext for control, and this is why we are incredibly encouraged by the state of Louisiana, and we hope that other states in the United States and countries worldwide follow suit. It is very easy to exit the World Health Organization and the United Nations. If your countries are telling you that it isn't, they're lying to you. As we close in on the election, you see more and more shocking events happening around the world and even at home. I don't believe it's all a coincidence, and neither should you. Plus, our society faces additional challenges: high inflation, mounting debt, rising interest rates, and labor disputes. These factors further strain our economy, with escalating global tensions threatening to disrupt vital supply chains. There's a reason why so many patriots preserve their wealth with gold, because it stands on its own as a beacon of stability. And over the last 5 years, it's almost doubled in value. Allegiance Gold has done things the right way from the beginning, so it's no coincidence that they've earned the highest trust ratings in the precious metals industry, 5 stars with TrustLink and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. Allegiance Gold can help protect your IRA or 401k with physical gold and silver, or you can have it delivered securely to your doorstep. Get up to $5,000 in free silver on a qualifying investment when you go to protectwithvnn.com or call 855-324-GOLD. Don't risk your financial future betting against these forces. Act today. Protectwithvnn.com. That's protectwithvnn.com or call 855-324-GOLD.